With us, former MP Fakey Mentor's testimony today at the state capture inquiry has been marked by anxiety, confusion, and in some cases, mistaken identity. She is the third witness in public hearings over allegations of state capture, fraud, and corruption. Mentor testified she initially struggled to tell the difference between the Gupta brothers. Here's Aaron Bates with more.
You swear that the evidence you shall give today shall be the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Former ANC MP Fakey Mentor began with a state trip to China in 2010. She says Duduzane Zuma introduced her to Fana Hlongwane and Rajesh Tony Gupta en route. In China, she says, a Gupta brother called her hotel room about meeting the then president.
Issues of my security frightened me a lot, but also in my mind, in addition, I was not going to, because the sun was setting, I was not going to, as a woman, go to President Zuma, who had then and had a reputation with women.
Mentor refused to attend. She cut short her trip, but says private businessmen were calling the shots on a state visit.
The trio that I later came to firmly know in my mind that are the Gupta brothers were seemingly in charge of the procedures and processes.
Some weeks later, Mentor says she was summoned to a meeting with Zuma. There were two unexpected stops, at Sahara Computers and the Gupta's Saxonwold home. Mentor says Atul Gupta tried to strike a deal.
He said I could be minister. I said, how so? He said the president was going to reshuffle his cabinet in the recent future, and Minister Barbara Hogan was going to be reshuffled. And I could become the minister in her place when she's reshuffled if I agree that once I become the minister, I would abolish the SAA India, South Africa, India, South Africa route.
She says Gupta also said she could be useful or helpful in acquiring uranium. The Guptas, she says, were aiming to become the main uranium supplier for the new nuclear deal. The inquiry's legal team says the chair must deal with an urgent question. Some of those implicated want to cross-examine witnesses.
They must understand that the privilege comes along with some responsibility. And the responsibility is to undertake to testify orally under oath, and that they too become subjected to cross-examination.
There can be no doubt about the desirability that if people are going to cross-examine, they should really be prepared to take the witness stand and give evidence.
Zondo's unsure the inquiry's rules force those implicated and who want to cross-examine to testify. A decision on the matter will be taken when the inquiry resumes. Aaron Bates, Parktown.
Now, the inquiry into state capture will highlight the role played by auditors and accountants like KPMG, to name just one. Are the different professional bodies playing their part in fighting corruption? Joining us now is South African Institute of Professional Accountants is Rahima Tukan Mohammed. Rahima, thank you so much for joining us. Let's start with the definition. What is the difference between an auditor and an accountant?
Okay, so the international term used for all accountants is professional accountant. It's not chartered accountant or anything else. We happen to have professional accountant SA as our designation. But there are different forms. So you have auditors who provide you with assurance. Then you have independent reviewers who give you moderate assurance. And then you have your compilers, which is the professional accountants that actually do the reports, that start with the reports.
So all of whether you're speaking to an organization that say they are internal or external auditors, they will have accountants that work within their organization.
There is a little bit of a difference there as well.
Okay.
So you have internal auditors who are not necessarily accountants. But if you are an accountant and you have the skill and the knowledge, you can also be an internal auditor. So it gets very confusing. Yes,
Indeed it does. And now when we have new stories such as the stories around state capture, we have big international organizations like KPMG and McKinsey that have been involved. You're telling me that they have a bit of a mix of both auditors as well as accountants within their walls.
Yes, but at the end of the day, if you have an audit firm like KPMG, every partner there has to be an auditor. Okay.
Okay, I think I'm with you. So now, your organization released a statement today, and there's a very strong quote from you in that statement. You say, a quote, "We can't let a few deviants destroy a profession that is essentially the world's economic foundation." But I'm sure you'll admit that those few deviants have done some serious reputational damage to the profession of accountancy.
In the last year, the profession has come under a lot of scrutiny. And it so happens that we had a new provision come out in the Code of Ethics called NOCLA, which says that if they come across a non-compliance with laws and regulations, they're supposed to do something about it. They're supposed to speak up. It kind of came at the right time, but everything went haywire in South Africa around the same time. We have to do something about it. We can't sit back and be complacent about corruption. If we do, it becomes a habit. And that's not what I think is going to continue, keep South Africa running.
Now, NOCLA, the non-compliance with laws and regulations that you said have just been brought out. I'm surprised that it's only been included now. One would have assumed that it would have been a major part of the basis of the work being done by people in this field.
So it came out last year, July, but previously, there's these 5 fundamental principles for accountants, one being confidentiality. And what NOCLA does now is it actually cancels confidentiality. It says if you have a professional obligation to do something, you need to speak up. You can't just turn a blind eye. So if you see something,
say something.
Yes. And it's a little bit different from reportable irregularities. So it's a matter of trying to fix it also. You don't just, oh, you did something wrong and now you need to be punished. No, let's try to fix it. Not cover it up, fix it.
Now, the vastness of the damage done and the work that was done, it seems, because these ongoing investigations around these firms like KPMG is ongoing, it was going on for some time. Why do you believe nobody saw, no red flags went up before it got to the place that we find ourselves in, or found ourselves in any case?
Maybe there was a fear of whistleblowing. It's not like we have a culture of whistleblowing in South Africa. It's something that we have to now accept and say, I'm not going to stand back and do nothing anymore. We can't allow a few deviants to now paint every professional accountant in a bad light. We probably have 40 or 50,000 professional accountants in the country, and not all of them are bad.
Now, looking at your organization, how does it work? If somebody comes to you and say, I think I have seen some irregularity taking place, I want to lay a complaint, can you only take action against an organization or an accountant that is a member of your organization?
Yes, we can only deal with our own members.
So now, how many of your kinds of organizations are there, and are you working together?
We do have collaborative efforts in trying to protect the profession. There are 4 IFAC, which is the International Federation of Accountants. There are 4 IFAC member bodies in South Africa. It's SAIPA, SAICA, CIMA, and ACCA. So we try to work together, and the idea is to keep the bad apples out of the barrel. But unless we get the information, our hands are tied.
Now, what would your advice be to somebody if they feel, if they're in your profession and they have information that could point to an irregularity that you can act on?
Well, I think that they should contact the professional body that is responsible for the professional accountant. Let us know. We have complaints procedures on our website, and you can even check if a professional accountant is in good standing. They have a whole lot of rules that they have to follow. One being they have to keep up with professional development, and if they don't keep up with it, if they don't pay their fees, if they have a legal blemish, they're not in good standing. And with our professional body, it gives you professional indemnity insurance. So it's good to check and make sure your professional accountant is actually legit.
Now, how can they do that? Where do they find you if they want more information?
So www.saipa.co.za, and you can click and find an accountant, and that's as easy as it is. If you want to call us, we are the type of organization that holds your hand and takes you through the process.
Fantastic. We thank you for your time tonight. That was Rahima Token Mohammed from the South African Institute of Professional Accountants.